Hey guys, Psychic Pictures here, and welcome back to more Higurashi When They Cry Chapter 1 Onikakushi. Last time we finished Chapter 1 of Chapter 1. Okay? But, let's continue on. Now, before we start this, I actually do want to say this. I had previously recorded this episode, and yeah, the entire thing didn't want to record. So, I might sound a little bit off with this one, but that's why. Because I've already recorded this, I did not want to record it again. So, let's begin. I took it a little too easy on the morning of my day off. I was totally late. Today was the day Rena and Mion were going to show me around Hinamizawa. Rena and Mion are waiting at the meeting place. Ki-chan, you're late. Sorry, the show I was watching last night was really interesting. Blame that. Oh, so that's your excuse for being late and keeping two girls waiting? Mi-chan, you just got here yourself. Last night's episode of A Day of the Life of was interesting, wasn't it? She was just as guilty as me. Rena was carrying a pretty heavy-looking handbag. What is that? Mion answered my unspoken question with a wink. That's right, Rena really did make a picnic. Ki-chan, after you left, Rena pulled out all the stops. It's not like I forced her to do it. It was nothing, so don't worry about it, okay? She's been like this since last night, you know? Can you take responsibility for this? Alright, I'm a man after all. I'll take responsibility. Huh? Responsibility? For what? For what? As we both turned around slowly to look at Rena, our gazes drifted downward to the massive handbag she was carrying. It didn't seem logically feasible that it would be entirely filled with lunchboxes. Except this was Rena we were talking about here. About 2 kilos, I guess? When Rena was picking it up, I could see that she was struggling a bit. I say 5. You're exaggerating. Kichi-kun is a boy after all. I thought he could probably eat a lot, so I made a lot, okay? Let's get going. Heave-ho! Just from the way she was lifting it up, I couldn't believe the only things in there were 2 lunchboxes. Correction, I say 5 kilos too. I'll help out, but all of it needs to be eaten. I won't forgive you if you make Rena sad, got it? The only thing I could do at the moment was exercise a bit to make myself hungrier. Having finished with the pleasantries, we began our leisurely stroll, a carefree walk bathed in the gentle morning sunlight. I couldn't have imagined something so wholesome existing during my time in the city. These were the boonies, after all. No slovenly desk jockeys trudging to work on the weekends out here. It really was a nice place, peaceful and quiet. As sparsely populated as the village was, you could still run into people just by walking around. Ah, good day. Good day! Oh, you would be Meabara-kun, right? I believe. My 2 companions exchanged greetings with everybody we ran across. All of these passerby even knew my name. When did I become so famous? We passed 3 people, and when all 3 of them knew me, I started to feel a bit paranoid. It's a bit sad to say. Everyone knows everyone since there are so few people here in Hinamizawa. So that means when an unfamiliar face walks by, they automatically assume that it's Mayabara, that Mayabara fellow who just moved here. Yeah, that's how it works. That's how it works out. It was a process of elimination you could only pull off in a place like this, but it was quite effective. From now on, I'd better make sure to maintain a good reputation. The day I'm discovered accidentally gawking at a dirty magazine in the bookstore, I can expect all the villagers labeling me as a leech by the next day. Hinamizawa is not to be trifled with. That's not the end of this nightmare. Of course I know them. The first person we met was Old Man Takezao from the Makino bike shop. His hobbies are bonsai and playing the flute. Next we met the grocer's second son, Daisuke-kun. His hobby is sharpshooting, and he hopes to be an ace sniper in the future. And the person we just met was Mio-san, the nurse from the clinic. Her hobbies are birdwatching and photography. You know the names of everyone we passed by, and even their profiles? Seeing my surprise, Mion and Rena exchanged looks and burst into laughter. Well, yeah. We're not in the city where people hardly know their neighbors. Then let's try it out. You there, who am I? Ahaha! You're Kichi Mayabara. You say some mean things, but you're actually a kind, shy person. It's been 3 weeks since you transferred here. Your hobby is taking afternoon naps. Lately, you switched over to wearing boxers, didn't you? That's enough, that's enough! But boxers? Enough of that. Apparently, there is absolutely nothing you can keep hidden here. Hinamizawa was not a place to be trifled with. This feels like more like you guys are showing me off rather than showing me around. That's right. We're parading around like this after all. Don't you all think so too? That Kichan is fitting right in here in Hinamizawa. The population in Hinamizawa is shrinking, so the villagers welcome anybody who's new here. I thought about brushing it off with something to the effect of, "You're kidding me," but I held back. Had I ever greeted someone who just moved into the city like this before? Thinking about that made me believe what they said wasn't a joke at all. We passed another person. Of course, we were called out to again the same way. "Oh my, good day! It's wonderful seeing you getting along. This lady here is Fujishima-san. Good day." "Oh my, Mayabara-kun! How wonderful for you, having a lovely girl on each arm. How are you? Getting used to life here?" Instead of regurgitating a prepared response like I would have in the city, I responded with an emphatic nod. The old woman chuckled, voicing her appreciation of how energetic I was. Good. As I looked back over to Rena and Mion, they gave me a wink. Now then. About time to have lunch, maybe? Maybe? Rena's brilliant smile signaled the approach of an event that both Mion and I were trying to forget. We both looked at each other. I'm a man, I'll do what I can, but it's just too much. It's fine, Kichan. Leave it to this old man. Mion has never seemed as reliable as she does right now. I'd expect no less from the class representative. Rena, if we're going to eat, we might as well go somewhere with a good view. Wah! Yes! Good idea, I agree. Rena nodded her head happily in response to Mion's proposal. The shrine. Cresting the top of the stone stairway, a shrine drawn straight out of my imagination, appeared before us. It had worn down a bit through the years, but the fallen leaves had been swept up, giving it a tidy feeling. This here is the Furude Shrine. It's probably the place with the best view around. This place, be sure to remember it. On our next break, a festival will be held here. Isn't it a bit too early in the season for a festival? The Onikakushi isn't a summer festival. Long ago, it used to be a celebration of the end of winter. I was embarrassed for assuming that festivals had to be held in the summer. Now then, spread out the lunchboxes, and there! Various colored lunchboxes were placed one after another on top of the plastic sheet. It sure did smell delicious. It was Rena's home cooking. It went without saying that it would be delicious. But is it even possible to finish all this? Hey Mion, it'll take more than just a good view to get this all down, you know? Hi. Good afternoon. It was Rika-chan and Satoko. Why are they here? Mion grinned over at me. I see, this was her secret plan. To power in numbers. You have my thanks, Mion. Following up with when all the pieces are in place is my specialty. We just had to come here since there was such a commotion. What is the meaning of this? Take a look. It's time for lunch. Buffet style. A handmade gourmet meal by Rena. I can see that much. Why do you have it... Why have you laid out a tarp on our property? The temple is public grounds. It's not yours. Kichi is right. This is everyone's property. Wow, Rena is such a good girl. Have a seat. Eat with us. After opening up a spot for Rika-chan, there, I promptly turned my back to Satoko. Hold on one second. Where's my spot? No spot for you and nothing for you to eat. Don't worry, there's some for you too. None. I'll eat all of hers. I will not allow that. Rika! Here, chopsticks. Both Satoko and I leapt at the boxes, having it out with each other. Man, really. Ki-chan, you're really good at leading people on. You might have a talent for this. Have a plate. One for me-chan and one for Rika-chan too. Rena whipped out pairs of chopsticks and paper plates. If we don't hurry, it'll all be eaten up. That's right. Okay. Shall we commence this battle? Please, eat a lot. There's enough for everyone. Rena said as she opened up the thermos. Just then, I realized that this lunch was made under the assumption that 5 people would be eating. It didn't change how much there was, but the implication behind it was different. I will not allow you to have this hamburger. Using your elbow is against the rules, Satoko. Grabbing the back of my collar is also against the rules. It was a tough battle, blocking with her full momentum and an elbow in the opening moves. Satoko appeared to have the upper hand, but the difference in our proficiency with chopsticks proved to be fatal. and gave me an upper hand. Ah, the last meatball! Satoko Hoji has been bested. Ow! Satoko and I amiably began choking at the same time, falling backwards and spasming. Rika-chan patted me on the head to clear it, even though it was actually stuck in my throat. Seeing that made Rena blush and breathe heavily in excitement. It was almost like flowers were floating all around her. Mion advised Rena to refrain from saying anything that would get her locked up. This is how our meals usually go. Not our usually meals go. I'd do anything in my power just so things could stay like this. The intense battle calmed, and finally everyone reached the point where they could begin talking. Receiving tea from the thermos, I let out a small sigh. I do wonder why there are so few words in Japanese to praise how something tastes. Isn't it because the idea of togetherness during a meal didn't begin until the modern era? It seems that long ago people ate in silence. It must have made people preparing the food a bit sad, don't you think? It's probably because back then the people were busy even while eating and didn't have time to complement the flavor. That's just you. But you know, just hearing that it's good makes me happy. That my effort was worth it, I mean. She blushed a little as she said that. It was delicious. With absolutely perfect timing, Rika-chan struck Rena directly with praise. She looked straight at her with an expression of bewitching innocence. After Rena uttered an unintelligible noise, a ring of smoke rose from her head with an audible poof. How? Rika-chan! I'm going to take you home! No, I mean, thank you! It was really delicious. Rena flushed red with excitement, embracing Rika-chan and rubbing her cheek against her so hard you could almost hear it. To reward Rika-chan for her praise. Ta-da! These are special. 2 apple rabbits. After sticking toothpicks into them, she thrust them toward Rika-chan. After Rika-chan accepted them, the mood suddenly shifted in a bizarre way. What is it, Satoko? What's with that defiant look? Has everyone prepared proper praise to receive apples from Rena-san? Don't push yourself. What kind of praise can you think up with your weak vocab? Ho ho ho! Well then, allow me to show you. After Satoko flashed Mion and me a defiant look, she changed the tone of her voice suddenly. Hey. So, Rena Oni-chan's lunch. Satoko thought it was yummy, too. Satoko looked up at her prudently while talking cutesy. What? How is that praise? That's not even persuasion by tears. That's persuasion by cuteness, isn't it? This is a Rena limited special skill. She blushed with her head spun, waving around in circles. Don't fall for it, Rena! How? Of course, that was asking for the impossible. Rena glomped Satoko and began rubbing her cheek against her. Cute! Satoko is so cute! Take you home, how? Swish! Stab! Push! Satoko was also presented with apple rabbits. After stuffing them in her mouth, she looked over at Mion and me again with a defiant gaze. It took only 5 seconds to take down Rena. That's unfair, to think she had such a trick. If it upsets you so much, why not reward Rena-san with some praise? Damn it! That was a dirty trick. First of all, that wasn't even praise. Satoko, you think you've won with that, don't you? How about I show you guys something much better than your superficial gimmicks? That sounds great, Mion. What kind of trick is it? Kichan is going to be the one that does it. What? Ho ho ho! Why don't I have you show me, then? The writhing of an old maid. The plan of attack she suggested was wicked, but it was the only thing we had to beat Satoko. After sipping my tea, I started talking very naturally and calmly. Perfectly. It really is good, isn't it? This is all freshly made, right? No. Actually, most of it, almost all of it, was frozen stuff. Then which ones did you make fresh? Well, it's embarrassing. Do I really have to say? Must I? From the synergy of boy plus handmade lunchbox, her expression had melted into euphoria. I already know. This one, right? Rena turned an even deeper shade of red, the words "I can't believe it" practically written on her face. How can you tell? How, I made it. Of course, Mion had told me beforehand. It's been perfect so far. After acting like I was shy, I waited a beat. Next would be the finisher. It had your smell. Silence enveloped the area. Rena, face still completely red, froze solid. With a small yelp, Satoko also blushed. Of course I did too. I sure would like to try one of Rena's handmade apple rabbits or something. Even if this was all because I was competing against Satoko, it felt like I had crossed the line by a good 9 yards, I think. Then, at that moment, boosh! It was a Tupperware container filled with rabbits. Please eat some, Kichi-kun. There's plenty for you. Instantly, dozens of the apples were shoved into my mouth, knocking me over. Okay, so say Kichi-kun. My head was forcefully laid upon her lap, and even more apples were shoved into my mouth. While she was squealing, one apple after another was forced into my mouth. More and more apples. Kichan, that was a beautiful sacrifice. How's that, Satoko? This is our complete victory, isn't it? I can't believe it! Such trickery! It doesn't bother me at all. Satoko ground her teeth, mortified. We did it. I claimed victory as my consciousness drifted slowly away from me. At that time, Rena stopped her squealing as she suddenly realized something. Rika-chan, you're not eating it. Did the salt water make it too strong? Maybe? Looking over, Rika-chan had pulled the toothpick out of the apple rabbit, placed it into her cupped hands, and seemed to be at a loss for what to do. Poor Mr. Rabbit. I feel sorry for him. I want to save him. Whee! That was the sound of blood spurting from Rena's nose. Cute! Tonight, I will take you home. She shook sporadically, her head wobbling back and forth. Then, coming back to her senses, she took all of the apples around me, gathered them up with a whip, and fixed them back up on a plate. Now they're all just fine, Kay? Here, I'll give them to you, Rika-chan. Kay? Rika-chan raised up Satoko's hand like a referee. After having that plate of rabbits shoved to her, she whispered, "This is our victory." What? What? A comeback? Hey. Thus, my sacrifice ended up being in vain. And this is where I should end it. Now, actually, I did a little bit more than this in the previous recording, but I think this is a better place to stop than where I stopped. So, thoughts on this episode? We're still getting to know the characters, and we're still getting the interactions between them. So, I'm still keeping an open mind about whether or not we will be able to influence the story or not. I think we will eventually, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was until the very end where we got to influence the story. And overall, this episode was just a lot of lighthearted stuff. It sets the tone really well for what Higurashi is. And for those of you that don't know what Higurashi is, it's a scary anime. And, well, anime slash manga slash hopefully visual novel. Because this is my first time actually seeing the Higurashi When They Cry visual novel. And it pretty much, it's keeping consistent with what the show is. Because it starts off lighthearted and then it gets into the dramatic, scary stuff. And it is good about doing that. So, I'm keeping an open mind, and when that dramatic, scary stuff comes around, I think that's when I'll be able to influence the story. So, I'm keeping an open mind until then. So, next time we'll be doing a bit more Higurashi. When They Cry, Chapter 1, Onikakushi. And that should be within the next half hour. And we've got 2 more episodes for today. Well, for Halloween. This has been Psychic Pictures, and I'll see you guys next time.